The evening sun was lowering slowly over a quiet American neighborhood. The sky glowed with warm golden light, and the long tree shadows stretched peacefully across the road. It was the kind of calm evening many people remember from years long ago, when neighborhoods felt slower, and life seemed a little kinder. Officer Michael Bennett sat in his patrol car along the side of Maplewood Lane. The door of his cruiser was open, letting in a gentle breeze. Michael was about 40 years old, with neatly combed dark hair, thoughtful eyes, and the calm presence of a man who had spent many years serving others. He was finishing a few notes from his shift when suddenly he heard something that didn't belong in such a peaceful moment.
Small footsteps. Fast, desperate footsteps.
Michael looked up. Running toward him was a little girl. She looked about 7 years old, with light brown hair slightly messy from running. She wore a bright pink dress that stood out against the soft colors of the quiet street. Her face was red and wet with tears, and her small chest rose and fell quickly as she struggled to breathe. She stopped just a few feet from him, crying openly.
Please,
please follow me home,"
she cried.
Her voice trembled with fear. Michael immediately stepped out of the car and gently knelt down so his eyes met hers. Years of experience had taught him that children needed calm more than anything. "Hey there," he said softly.
"You're safe. Officer Michael Bennett."
The girl wiped her eyes with the back of her hand, but the tears kept falling. "My name is Lily Thompson," she whispered. Michael spoke slowly and kindly. "Okay, Lily.
Take a deep breath for me. That's it.
Now tell me what's wrong." She pointed down the street with a shaking finger. "My grandma, she won't wake up." For a brief moment, Michael felt a heavy weight settle in his chest. But he kept his voice steady.
"All right.
Let's go see her together." Lily quickly turned and began leading him down the quiet neighborhood street. The houses were small but cozy, each with trimmed lawns and flower gardens that showed years of loving care. Michael noticed old rocking chairs on porches, wind chimes swaying softly, and bicycles leaning against fences. It reminded him of his own childhood. His grandmother had lived in a neighborhood just like this. And suddenly he understood how much that little girl must love the person waiting inside that house. After 2 short blocks, Lily stopped in front of a small white home with blue shutters. The wooden porch looked worn but welcoming. She rushed up the steps and pushed open the door.
"Grandma, I brought help."
Michael stepped inside. The house felt warm and lived in. The scent of homemade soup still lingered faintly in the air. The walls were covered with framed photos, birthdays, family picnics, school pictures. Memories of a life filled with love. In the living room, on a simple couch, lay an elderly woman. Her silver hair rested gently on a pillow. Her hands were folded loosely across her chest, and her breathing was slow and quiet. Lily rushed to her side. "Grandma Margaret Thompson, please wake up," she whispered through tears. Michael quickly checked her pulse.
It was faint, but steady.
He immediately called for an ambulance and then carefully placed a soft blanket over Margaret. Lily stood beside him, holding her breath. "Is she going to die?" she asked quietly. The question hung in the room like a fragile glass ornament. Michael looked at her gently. "I don't believe so," he said. "But the doctors will help her feel better." Lily nodded slowly, though her eyes were still filled with fear. After a moment, she sat down on the floor beside the couch and spoke softly. "It's just me and Grandma." Michael looked at her. "My mom and dad, they had a car accident 3 years ago," she continued quietly. "Grandma takes care of me now." Her voice held the simple honesty that only children carry. "She makes pancakes every Sunday," Lily added with a small smile. "Even when she's tired."
Michael felt his throat tighten.
"My grandma used to make blueberry pancakes," he said softly. For a moment, the two of them shared a quiet understanding that crossed generations. Soon the distant sound of sirens approached. The paramedics entered quickly but gently, examining Margaret carefully. After a few minutes, one of them smiled reassuringly. "She's going to be all right," the paramedic said. "Looks like she fainted from dehydration and exhaustion." Lily's shoulders dropped with relief. Tears still sat in her eyes, but now they were tears of hope. Margaret was placed carefully onto a stretcher. Just before they wheeled her out, her eyes fluttered slightly. "Lily," she whispered weakly. The little girl rushed forward. "I'm here, Grandma." Margaret smiled faintly before drifting back to sleep. The ambulance doors closed softly. Michael stayed with Lily on the porch while they waited for her aunt to arrive. The sun had almost set now, leaving behind a gentle orange glow in the sky. The neighborhood had grown quiet again. Lily sat beside Michael on the wooden steps, swinging her feet slowly. Grandma always says something, she said after a while. What's that?
Michael asked. She looked up at him.
She says, when you feel scared, you should look for good people. Because good people are everywhere. Michael smiled gently. Your grandma sounds like a very wise woman. Lily nodded proudly. She says kindness is the most important thing you can leave behind. The words hung softly in the evening air. After a while, a car pulled into the driveway. Lily's Aunt Rebecca rushed up the steps and hugged her tightly. Thank you for helping her, Rebecca told Michael with deep gratitude.
Michael simply nodded.
It was Lily who did the brave part. Before leaving, Lily walked up to him and wrapped her small arms around his waist. Thank you for coming with me, she said. Michael gently patted her shoulder. You reminded me of something important today, he replied.
What?
That courage doesn't always look big and loud.
She tilted her head.
Sometimes it looks like a little girl asking for help.
Lily smiled.
As Michael drove away later that evening, the streetlights flickered on one by one. The quiet neighborhood returned to its peaceful rhythm. But in Michael's heart, something warm stayed with him. In a world that sometimes feels rushed and heavy, there are still moments that slow everything down. Moments where kindness quietly shows its power. A frightened little girl. A grandmother who raised her with love. And the simple truth that no matter how much the world changes, the most important things never do. Caring for one another. Helping when someone calls. And remembering that even the smallest act of kindness can echo through a lifetime.